Hey, everybody. Welcome to Smoky Mountain Echo, the official podcast of Haywood County Government. I'm Dylan Huffman. Today, we're marking 1 year since Helene, a storm that left a lasting mark on our community. To help us reflect on what we've been through, how far we've come, and where we're headed, we're joined by someone who knows Haywood County inside and out. Cody Grasty has lived here his whole life, and he currently serves as the county's Recovery and Resiliency Manager. From personal experiences during Helene to comparisons with past storms like Francis, Ivan, and Fred, to the progress that we've made in recovery and preparedness, Cody brings professional expertise and a deeply personal perspective. So, Cody, you've lived in Haywood County your whole life. Talk to me about what it was like for you personally, the day of leading up to when we knew, Hurricane Helene was coming and then came through Haywood County.
These are friends and neighbors, lifelong friends and neighbors that I've known for a long time. Everybody in Haywood County knows everybody. Um, and leading up to it, I have to say that I had a sense of safety because I told some friends of mine, the mountains have always protected us. This is home. The mountains have always protected us. We had a really bad storm in Fred, but it was because of a variety of issues, not just the rain, but the landslides that caused some of the river inundation that we saw and the flash flooding. But I was like, the mountains protect us. This is home. Home protects us. This is our safe place. And we saw that it didn't. And leading up to it and going into it, and just how fast the water rose and how fast things changed, was really just, it was devastating, right? Home's supposed to be that safe spot, that safe place. I will say though that I am my friends and neighbors in the community who were prepared, better prepared, because they went through Fred, because they went through Francis and Ivan in '04 and '05. Um, it meant that less people were hurt this time, and it's fantastic to see that. It's relief, sadness, grief, regret, all mixed into one. Because you want to do more for the people that you serve and that you go out and see in the grocery store. And, when you're walking down Main Street in the evening and enjoying dinner that you say hello to, you want to make sure that they have a home to go back to. Um, after Helene, and I just want to say this, after Helene, I had to walk back to my house because the bridge had literally floated away there, the state bridge below my house. And some of the creek was flowing down my driveway, but my home was okay. And for a moment, I felt relief, but for a moment, I felt guilt. Um, we had folks who didn't have that to go back to, not just because of flooding, but because of landslide or because of other issues. They didn't have that security. And so for being here, being at home, um, searching those feelings, really thinking about it and processing it, leading up to it, I was a little bit naive about the situation, but don't get me wrong, still professional. All of us were doing as much as we could, how we could in emergency services, making sure that we were prepared, the community was prepared, blasting out messages. But I had this false sense of security that I will not allow myself to have again. Going through it, um, that shock of the moment, and I'm grateful for my emergency services background because it means we can stay focused on the mission, helping people, getting people out of harm's way, doing what we need to. But after the fact, it's all those other feelings: sadness, regret, um, a little bit of depression, but also how do I help people now? And that's where we're at now, and where I'm at mentally is, how do I help people in those situations?
As we talk about, helping people in those situations, how do you feel now, a year out, a year later?
I feel better than where we did a year ago. That's for sure. Um, in this role, in the recovery and resiliency role, I have the opportunity to meet with people one on one and problem solve the situation they're in. We've had people come through and say, "I've just got a minor landslide in front of my house, or a small landslide is endangering my house," and myself and the state are working with them to identify how to fix those issues. Or we've got people who are telling us that FEMA isn't giving them the rental assistance they need. And so they're having a hard time finding housing based upon their income or something, and they were truly survivors from this disaster. Um, so where I'm at now is I'm honored. I don't know how to use that or explain that in an emotion, but I'm honored because I have the opportunity to help people even a year out, even still now, And these aren't just people; these are friends and family. And I might not have met any of them, but I'm still going to call them friends and family because that's what we do in Haywood County. It's we're one big family, whether you were here a whole lifetime or here, yesterday. Um, so I have this feeling of honor and commitment. I want to see this thing through. I want to see people get to closure, whatever that means for them. I want them to get the help they deserve. We want to connect people to the resources that they might not know about, that we might not know about until we start asking. So that's why we encourage people to come tell us what's going on, so that we can continue to be of service and to serve them.
Do you think that our community was changed or has changed since Helene?
Uh, Most definitely. Not just the physical landscape, but the emotional as well. I think how our community has changed is that we recognize that this type of threat and hazard exists, and that our people are so kind and gracious. The community is kind and gracious, where they are say, we don't want this to happen to anyone else, and we're going to do things, put things in motion so it doesn't. The other way it's changed is that, I want to recognize that we had Fred in 2021. We had the mill closure, um, which is a disaster, let's be honest, for Haywood County. And then we had the Helene in 2024, and COVID and all of it too, and the mix of it. So we have faced a lot in the past 5 years that no community should have to face. In a mountain community like ours, everything's changing so quickly. Generations of people are changing. I think it's important that we not just say Helene did something. It's 5 years of multiple disasters: COVID, Fred, mill closure, Helene. And what we need to recognize, and what we continue to recognize, at least in this office and my position and several others in Haywood County government, is how do we make sure that people who want to live, thrive, be here, continue to be here for generations, stay here. So, yeah, we're changing, but it's not because of Helene. We're changing because of 5 or 6 years of changes are just hitting us one after another every year, and we've never seen that pace before, and it's causing us to really have to rethink, how do we continue to be of service so that if someone wants to live, thrive, survive here, be here and be well off, how do they do that? And I'm not saying I have the answer, or anybody in this office has the answer, but we've started to engage with people and ask those long-term questions. Not next year, not this year, but over the next several years, maybe 10 years. What is it going to take for your families to want to stay in Haywood County for generations? Because that's where we get wealth from. It's termed generational wealth, that you pass things down from one to another. That I don't think of it in that. I think generational wealth is that your family exists in a close place to other family members, so that your family can stay a family unit, even though it's big. And that's what we had in Haywood County, and what I grew up in, and what's changing right now. That's the big change.
You mentioned the other big storms that we've seen, Francis, Ivan, Fred. How do you think that Helene compares to those storms?
Without a doubt, it's the worst in the mind of the citizen, and the reason being is because it's the top of the pyramid, it's the tip of the pyramid. Now, we can say by data, Helene was the worst since, the flood in the early 1900s in Haywood County. All of our towns were impacted, all of them had, some kind of, public assistance declaration from FEMA, um, and they're seeking those assistance dollars to help them. We also have, data that shows that the state has spent the most money ever and so forth. So I can look at the data and tell you that this is the worst. We had several hundred, if not several thousand slides, small to big landslides in Haywood County and across the region, flooding on a monumental scale. But what I can tell you that's not in the data, that's in the hearts of people, is they're still talking about it a year later, and they're not talking about things getting better. They're not talking about them necessarily getting worse, but they're talking about them still being the same, and that tells me that because things aren't getting better, this has to be the worst disaster. Even, I was around, but I was just in college at the time, but I was around in '04 and '05, and by now we were talking about things getting better.
Are there any stories of neighbors helping neighbors, over the past year that have really stuck with you or stood out to you?
Oh gosh. Um, I think we need to look at a couple of things. stories of neighbors going and a few of them going and rescuing the dogs out of flooding houses or houses they thought were going to flood. And there was one down in Clyde. Somebody had a little dog, and she wasn't able to get home from work, and she called her neighbor, and she's like, "Save my dog, please save my dog." And it's so funny. We talk about how dogs and cats are like kids, and her neighbor went in knee high water to go save this little dog, and the little dog bit him. Okay, and he was telling me, he was like, I can't believe this dog bit me. Here I come to save its life, and it just bit me, and I but we all understand the stress it was going through.
Scared.
It was scared. It was scared. Thankfully, the house didn't flood more than just the foundation, and the dog would have been okay, but the neighbor's like, "I'm gonna do this for my neighbor," and that's where neighborly love comes in. Like, here we're fortunate. It's not just neighbors by fence line, it's neighbors by family. Um, some other examples that we've had is, a couple of neighbors, up in the Crusoe community. An older lady had some damage to her front porch, didn't have much money, and they got together with their church, come out there and built her a little bit of a new front porch. Simple, not anything, crazy. But then they also put in a ramp instead of steps to help her so that she could get in. Those simple acts of kindness are what it takes. We've had people come in here, um, to the disaster recovery center and say, "I have a neighbor, I have a friend who is embarrassed to come out here and talk to you about the situation going on." And we have a lot of pride here. I think I want to highlight that too. Haywood County folks have a lot of pride, and they have a hard time asking for help. And so these neighbors, these friends have asked for help on their behalf. And because of that, they can go back and present it in a way that doesn't damage their pride of, this isn't help. These are benefits from FEMA, the individual assistance or your insurance that you're entitled to post disaster as a survivor or as a person who's gone through this. And that kind of neighborly love doesn't exist in many other places. It doesn't exist that someone will watch out for somebody and say, "You know what, they're going through a rough time and they're just scared to send up the red flag or the flare or whatever." And so they go and help them themselves. So real interesting dynamic in terms of things, all the way from dogs biting people to porches to asking for help. We're very fortunate here that people take care of people.
One of the things that we've seen put into place, it came about after Fred, and now Helene happened in the middle of that was our weather sirens. Let's talk a little bit about what that project is and how progress is going.
Um, After Fred, in 2021, we recognized the immediate need in some of the remote areas of the county that don't have the best cell phone service, that we needed a way to alert them and warn them about something that's happening. Um, we always knew that there was spotty cell phone reception. Let me be clear, and we had made plans for that as best we could, but Fred was so different. It was the flash flooding of it, meaning like it went from a river that was just had a little bit of flooding to 9 foot, 10 foot, 11 foot of water was just almost instantaneous, something we'd never seen before. Coupled with the cell phone tower for the Crusoe community had a fiber cut in the middle of this. So there was no cell phone reception all of a sudden in the Crusoe community wide, not just in the far reaches of the area close to federal property. And we said, well, that's not good enough. In Haywood County, we need to do better. We looked at some options. We engaged with community partners like fire departments, Crusoe, Lake Logan, Center Pigeon, and we said, what do we need to warn your citizens? And somebody, I think it was Chief Henson at Crusoe, said we need a siren. He said we drove up and down the road with our fire engine siren going, but he said we need a big old siren that tells people to run for the hills. And he said that, I'm quoting him, "Run for the hills." And I said, well, that's actually not a bad idea. We need to run for higher ground, right? And so we started looking, and the closest place was in Caldwell County, I believe, at Martin's Creek, I think is what it's called. I can't. It's a large campground near a creek in Caldwell County. And they have a couple of sirens. They have two sirens for warning that campground. And then the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indian, EBCI, is putting in a siren system at the same time. And we went and looked at their concept and plans. We were like, this is what we want. This is good. We engaged with the state and said, this is unmet need. We need dollars for this because this is going to be a huge project. We needed rain and river gauges, and we needed sirens. Let me be clear, we have rain and river gauges in the county, but we had some blind spot areas that we couldn't tell when the river was rising, and we needed to know if it was rising quickly in certain areas, um, more so than later on down the river where the established rain and river gauges are. Um, the state said, "Well, how much do you need?" And we gave them an idea, and they came through for us. They gave us some dollars um, to purchase a siren system and these additional rain and river gauges. Uh, we had an issue with the initial grant they provided. There was some they needed to claw back the money and send it down east. They had given us the wrong pot of money, so we were delayed while they were searching for another pot. But they did find it and gave it to us. So we were delayed about 8 months on that because the state had given us the wrong pot of money. I kind of laughed when they called me and told me that, and I said, "How do you write a check from a checking account that doesn't exist?" But whatever. And but they said the money is going to come through. Don't worry. We just used the wrong pot of money, and they were right. It came through. Um, we have worked meticulously on this project, and today, as of this recording, we're installing it. Um, we went through the process of hiring a world-class vendor, Alertus, who's done this for campuses and so forth across the country and other areas of the country for tornado sirens and everything like that. Um, and their integration with Everbridge, which is our Haywood alert system, which if anyone listening hasn't signed up for Haywood alerts, you should do so. ReadyHaywood.com. Sign up. It's easy. You can opt in, opt out. But their ability to integrate in with that system allows for not only the sirens to go off, but immediately without us having to get into the system, it allows for text messages and phone calls to go out to people in the community. And we thought that was really cool. That's the future of alert and warning. Not one way of communicating to the citizen, but multiple ways of communicating to the citizen. The siren's going off. You're getting a text message, say, go to higher ground. Like, there's multiple ways to engage people to let them know that they need to do something. And that was our goal. Fast forward to where we're at today. Like I said, installation's happening as of today. We're very fortunate in that, and we're going to have installation through the rest of 2025 here, and we'll be operational the first of 2026. A lot of people ask how the sirens get activated. Once they're installed and tested, the activation will be from the 911 center. They'll be able to activate from the 911 center, push of a button, one or multiple sirens. Eventually, the rain and river gauges we've purchased and some of the ones that were existing, once we get an engineer up here to study in early 2026, they're going to conduct some studies. They'll be able to, the rain and river gauges will be able to set off the sirens automatically, where we won't have to engage with the system just based on rise of the river, amount of rainfall, etc. It'll set off those sirens. We have some fail-safe methods as well, so if all that fails, we can activate it some other ways. We can engage with our fire department folks or EMS or emergency management, and they can activate those sirens in fail-safe ways. And so this is really a unique system in that it's automatic, it's manual, and it's fail-safe all at the same time. And we also have the opportunity where these sirens can be one siren, sirens along one river specifically, or the entirety of the system. But the goal here, for those who don't know, and you might not know, 40% of Haywood County is federal land. That means that 40% does not have good cell phone coverage, and there's a lot of communities that are butting up against federal land, and they deserve the same protection and the same ability to alert and warn them as maybe you and I, who live near city limits in various parts of the county. And the way we do that is these sirens that use the public safety radio network to activate and alert them that something bad is happening. They need to head for the hills, as Chief Henson said.
Cody, as we kind of bring our conversation to a close, we've been talking about 1 year, past Helene. What kind of gives you hope, about where Haywood County is headed now, 1 year after the storm?
I'm going to go back to neighborly love. People taking care of people. There's no place on God's green earth like Haywood County. I've traveled the world, and that's the truth. I've traveled the world. I've done disasters in so many states and territories. I've seen a lot. Okay, and uh, I've been in emergency management or disaster management since roughly 2009, 2010, and I've gone places and helped a lot of people. There's no place like here because there's neighborly love, and it's that love of caring for one another, making sure you're good. You know, we might yell at each other. We might, this is my side of the fence, don't cross it. But that storm's coming and I'm going to make sure that you have at least some food, but don't cross my fence. We have those people who genuinely care about folks. Um, Deep down, that makes the difference. And we also have this, I can't explain it, this commitment, not just in government, but in the community fire departments, at the sheriff's office, in the towns. Um, the whole of government, the whole of this ecosystem of community support and community rescue and community services just wants to serve the citizen. It absolutely just craves it. It's like just salivating, just wanting to go and help people. And it's so refreshing because in my role, I have to engage with a lot of partners, the towns, the community fire departments, which the community fire departments are their own entities. They're not under a town. They're not under the county. They contract with the county to provide services. A rescue squad, the sheriff's office, an elected sheriff with the sheriff's office, NGOs, non-government organizations, churches. But no matter who I engage with, one of the first questions they ask in a variety of ways is, how can we help them? You know, what can we do today to help them? And that makes all the difference in the world. We might not have the funding, and trust me, money fixes a lot of problems, but that doesn't fix the problem of people not caring. And that's where I'm hopeful is everyone genuinely cares that people in Haywood County are taken care of who are in Haywood County. And we have a lot of people at the state level, and I don't get me wrong, I have frustrations with the state. Everyone does. But they genuinely care and they're trying to help us out. Things are slow right now. I've never seen it like this. Everyone says it. Everyone who's been in the business for more than 5 years is saying the same thing. We've had contractors come in and who are helping us right now, who've again been all over the world, been all over the states, and they'll tell you the same thing. They've never seen it roll this slow before. They've never seen anything this big of a disaster take so long for whatever recovery dollars out there to come down and other assistance and stuff like that. But what I'm hopeful for is that everyone is still knocking at the door saying we need help. Whether that's FEMA, whether that's donations, whether that's whatever, and they're looking for avenues to help folks. Um, I would encourage with this, Dylan. A couple of things I want to say. Haywood County is absolutely open for business. Best path of recovery for Haywood County is that people come here and visit us and take in our beauty and our splendor. God has truly blessed Haywood County, this part of the world, with just scenery and people that we don't deserve, but somehow we have and we continue to be blessed with. So, if anyone is curious if we're open or scared that they're going to come here and run into roads that are destroyed or people who are unwelcoming, nothing could be further from the truth. We welcome people, even if they don't have dollars, they're still welcome to come out here and hang out with us, and we'll take them to a couple places. Hiking's always free. The other thing I want to say is that I am very appreciative of everyone a year out. We're coming up on the year mark, who today still asks everyone. There's not a single person I can think of that is upset or mean about it or anything, but they genuinely want to know how they can help. Towns, emergency services, doesn't matter. NGOs, United Way, who has been such a great partner, and that we continue in Haywood County to take in financial donations for survivors. And that way we do that is through the United Way. So it's not coming to the county, and the United Way is working with case managers to identify those who need the dollars who are survivors. So if anyone out there would like to make cash donations to help survivors, they can make that to the United Way of Haywood County. And I want them to rest assured, I've seen their process. Their process is a very thorough vetting process to make sure that someone is a survivor and in need, and this is to help them find closure and fix the need that they have to recover. So there are multiple ways to help, through church organizations or whatnot. But if they're wanting to make cash donations, United Way of Haywood County specifically, not just United Way, but United Way of Haywood County. And the last thing I'd say is that the next disaster, and there will be another disaster. We don't know when, we don't know what it will be, but the next disaster, we've got to make sure people are prepared. And that means when people are prepared, there's less time in recovery. And to be prepared, they need to start with readyhaywood.com. Go there first and start with that. And the next thing is they need to make sure that they're resilient for the next disaster. Resiliency is like a checklist. They need to make sure that they have $500 in the bank and that they don't touch. That's their emergency fund. So they need to make sure before the next disaster they have a full tank of gas. Resiliency also means that look around your house. If you have leaves and trees that are really close to your house, maybe cut some of those away in case it's a wildfire situation. That way you don't have to worry about some embers coming onto your property. If they're near a creek, they need to look at some opportunities. There's still opportunities for maybe some elevation opportunities or something like that. That if they're wanting to elevate their house, we can talk to them about options going forward. Resiliency comes in different ways, but they need to make sure that they're ready for the next disaster and that they're able to cope with whatever's going on. And readyhaywood.com is the first step of many steps to make sure that they're resilient and prepared for the next disaster.
That was Cody Grasty, Haywood County's Recovery and Resiliency Manager. Don't forget that new episodes of Smoky Mountain Echo are available the last Tuesday of every month, and they're always available on demand. You can check out our website, smokymountainecho.podbean.com. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next month.